Hey y'all, welcome to Challenge Accepted. I am Frank and I'm joined by Thomas.
What's going on, everybody?
Today we are talking Ant-Man and the Wasp and the Quantumanium.
Yeah.
What did you think of this movie?
So we were already talking about it offline. For me, the more I sit and think about it post movie, the more I seem to like it. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean I loved it. I didn't think this is peak Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, it for me, it's upper mid. But
Oh
the
wow.
more I think about it, the more I like it. What about you?
I'm not a fan. I'm not going to be one of those guys who bash on it. We try to not ever be that negative, but
Right.
I'm not a fan.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. It's it seems like one of those movies that's gonna be divisive.
I'm just not. I mean, I like Ant-Man and I respect what it is, but in general, it's not my favorite movies, anyways. And this is the worst of the Ant-Man movies, in my opinion. So I have it down there. I'm trying to think of what's below it, and I can't think of it right now. But I'll come back to you if I can think of something that's worse than this in my
Okay.
books. But yeah.
Yeah. So what should we do? Should we give like a quick breakdown? I think
We
we
got
should
to
just
do
kind
our
of tag team it. I
before
don't
we do
know.
our two-minute thing. I want to get out a 100% excellent
Oh,
review
please
from
do.
Jackie 808 Hi from our Apple Podcast reviews. This is what they said. Great reviews. I love listening to these guys right after I watch the episode. So this is probably from The Last of Us. Love to hear their insights, and they always catch something I missed. Great banter and humor as well. You know, I agree with you, Jackie. I have to agree with you.
Yeah. She's got great taste.
Yeah. So, guys, hit us up with those reviews, and we'll make sure to read them here on the podcast. And then you brought up a good point. If you ask a question in the review, we'll answer the question. So, do the 1-2 punch right there. We'll catch it every time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'd love to read some of those questions online. And, there's added bonus where other people get to discover the show as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we would appreciate it.
Do you want to do our 2-minute review, or do you want me to? Our
I'll
2-minute
try to. I
breakdown.
might jump all over the place, but let's give it a
That's all right.
shot.
The movie did as well, so you might as well.
Dang.
I promise I'm
Taking a
going
lot
to
of
try to be
shade already.
positive. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so we start off seeing what's been going on with Scott since the last time we saw him, which I believe was in Endgame. He's going through San Francisco. It seems like he's on top of the world. Everybody seems to know who he is. He's getting the award at Baskin Robbins for Employee of the Century. He's reading his book, and now he's like some big author who's a little into himself. I mean, who wouldn't be after saving the world? But anyways, has to break his daughter out of jail. Turns out she's been working with Hank Pym and Hope to try to send a digital mapping device or signal down into the quantum realm to map that universe. Janet finds out and freaks out. They all get sucked into the quantum realm. The mania starts to ensue. It's this wacky and wild world. There's different characters in there. There's almost like a Star Wars-esque, to me, kind of feel. Because there's like interesting alien-looking creatures down there. There's a whole society. They find out that there's a conqueror down there who is taking over this world. Scott and Cassie are on their own adventure, and then it's Janet, Hank, and Hope on their own adventure, and they are figuring out what's going on with that world. Somehow they meet up. I forget what happens after this. They meet up here, and then
They meet up. They
something.
meet up when they have to shrink back down the engine core.
Okay, right. Okay, string down the engine core. We get a little backstory. We meet Kang. He beats the crap out of Scott. Big battle at the end. Ants come in and save the day. Oh, there's MODOK in there, so that's a thing. And then, they beat Kang, so to speak. Oh, they steal the center part. I didn't write really good notes on this
That's all right.
yet. And they all end up fine in San Francisco somehow, but Scott has a bad feeling.
That
That's
was
all I
pretty
got.
good. Look at you, got like 2 seconds on the clock. That was pretty good.
And
See,
bad ice cream cake.
that ice cream cake. I mean, I'd still try it out, but yeah, it would look
Yeah,
pretty bad.
yeah, definitely.
You know, this might be the best example in Marvel of making sure everybody gets a highlight, right? Because I think every one of Team Ant-Man really got a moment to shine. They got a good, complete story. Even Hank Pym. I think
Yeah,
everybody
well
really
said.
got their moment to shine, and I really like that a lot in this film.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. You know who I do kind of feel like, because I almost want to make this like a shit sandwich, where
Yeah.
there's a lot of good things we say, and then we kind of get our critiques in the middle, and then end with some good things. And for a movie called Ant-Man and the Wasp, there is pretty little Wasp in it, I think.
Well, I agree with you, but I do like how they took this time to work on her relationship with her father and mom, which is
That's true.
something that
She
was.
gets a lot of good mother-daughter moments.
Think of how much they built from Ant-Man 1. We just reviewed Ant-Man 1. I mean, these two are in a whole new place from then. And then we're
True.
also seeing her take those lessons that she learned from not having her mom around and apply them to Cassie, her kind of adopted daughter in this case,
Oh, yeah. I didn't
or
see it like that.
stepdaughter, I guess. I'm not sure if they're married, but so yeah, we're kind of seeing it's of course like all other Ant-Man movies about fatherhood and stuff like that. So um, I did like that, and then Janet, boy, she really shined in this one too because she
Absolutely.
has been neglected this entire time, and it was like, hey, we're going to my basketball court, and I'm going to show you how to play. So
Yeah,
that was
I
cool.
couldn't agree more. I think that Janet, I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer absolutely crushed it. And then you got, for me, my all-star, the other one is Jonathan Majors King. Like he was
He's in a
so,
whole different field. Like it's like not even that dude
yeah,
carried this movie so hard. Every
he
time he's
did.
on screen, I was just like that prison scene. By the way, we're going full spoilers, folks. Obviously, we
Yeah,
just did
yeah.
a 2 minute review. Actually, I should have said that before that. But
Right, right.
um,
Put in the title.
there we go. That whole thing with the prison scene, his tone went from kind of anger and aggression, punchy, 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 to slow down. I'm going to convince you to subtle threat. There's a volcano underneath this. Like he was like
Yeah,
hitting that brake and gas often. Oh man,
yeah.
Jonathan Majors is amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, you could tell that there was something ready to boil over always at every moment. And then
Yeah,
when he finally does, you're like, damn, is he going all out? Yeah, I thought he was absolutely fantastic in it. Yeah, again, I think we'll kind of get into the shit sandwich of it all again, but he he just yeah, from the introduction, from seeing him crash land into the quantum realm, and he's kind of this sympathetic character in the beginning because he looks a little hopeless and lost. And I'm sure with somebody who comes from that far into the future of the 31st century, how much of your life revolves around technology, and when you're in a place where
yeah.
you can't use that technology, you are no different than anybody else. And so I did appreciate that side of it because you watch any type of review video or any Marvel breakdown, and they tell you Kang is just a man at his core. What
Mhm.
sets him apart from the Avengers that we see, or the people, or the characters in the time that we're in, is that his technology is so far advanced.
Yeah.
It's like he might as well be a god. And when he's stripped down outside of that technology, there's a lot of humanizing factors about him. And I thought they did a really good job of balancing his character and then Janet, and then just that interaction I thought was really, really good.
That's a good point. In comparison to like, Thanos, which we'll be doing that a lot over the next, few years,
Hmm.
because he is our new Thanos essentially. He
Right.
is a human. He's from the future, and we know that we're gonna get the Reed Richards of it all. But that's important to remember. And without that suit, I mean, we saw how much he changed as soon as he got power, enough power to power up his suit. That was the first thing he did when he had enough power to do anything.
Right.
Um, and and with just the suit, he essentially took over his section of the quantum realm. Oh boy, the quantum realm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
So yeah, yeah,
it shows how
absolutely. I'm
powerful he
really
is.
curious to hear your thoughts on the quantum realm. I mean, I kind of even want to scale back because I was interested in hearing your thoughts on them getting sucked into the quantum realm.
Okay, so I liked how it felt like a comic book, right? Comic books do that all the time, where it's like, hey, here's a day in the life
Yep.
of Ant Man or Hawkeye or whomever, and then all of a sudden,
Exactly.
like, oh shit, MacGuffin came along. Star Trek does this too. A MacGuffin came along, boom, we're in an adventure. And that felt very
Yes.
comic booky.
Hmm.
The world they were in sucked. Oh my god, I hate
You
the
think so?
quantum realm so bad. Yeah, so in my
Okay.
opinion,
Why? What part of it didn't you like?
too much. They did too much. It was too much of everything. If this was another planet, it would be so much better. If this was just a
Hmm.
planet, if it was a trading post planet, even better. So then you can have all the different races. But this
Right.
thing with all these different creatures, I get how quantum mechanics work. And I just think that it's
You do? You're a genius.
well, I
No,
mean,
I'm just kidding.
I get enough to understand what Ant-Man's doing. I
Yeah,
don't,
no, you probably know more than me. Let's
no,
be
no,
real.
no, no. Don't put me to no test or nothing. But I get what we're doing here. But when you it's what we worried about, right? And thank God ants happened to get sucked in with them because then all of a sudden, I mean, that's done. They got lucky with that, right?
Yes, I mean, Ant-Man in general is just through the MCU's history for me has been a lucky character. He's
Yeah.
lucky that he got sucked into the world he did. He's lucky that he was on Hank Pym's radar. He's lucky that a rat shot him out of the van. He's lucky that he was a part of the Avengers. Like, he's the unlikely hero that got the power to join up with the best heroes in the world. He's
His
always
entire
been
fight with the Falcon in the first movie was all kind of just him lucking around.
lucky. Yeah. And so that's, I mean, I always, this has been a joke. It's like, well, I mean, Domino's this character in Marvel, but is luck a power? And absolutely. Like, do you want to be skilled or do you want to be lucky? I always say I'd rather be lucky.
Yeah.
Because skill, the one day you're off, you lose. Lucky, you could be having the worst day of your life and still win.
Stan
And
Lee
so,
says that's the strongest superhero ability too. He
What's
actually has a
that?
quote saying Stan Lee has a quote saying luck is the strongest superhero ability.
wow.
So
I
if
mean,
it's coming
see,
from the
there
boss,
you go.
then yeah.
Exactly. Well, I didn't hear that from him, but now I feel a little bit closer to Stan Lee. I didn't even know it could be, but now I feel like he's looking down upon me and giving me his blessing.
Yeah.
But no, so I loved Paul Rudd in this movie, I will say, because he is just Paul Rudd.
He did more Paul Rudd things, yeah.
Yeah,
Which
and
are
I'm
good.
so for that. I'm
Yeah.
so for Paul Rudd just being the lovable dad who, is a little bit blind, a little bit ignorant, wants to be hip, wants to be cool. And in this one, we also see like this is the coolest thing he's ever done. It was save the world with the Avengers. And of course, like when they jump in the car after getting Cassie out of jail and the audiobook is playing, I wanted to hold up my hand and be like,
God.
yeah, I do that. Like, Shane like, I listened back to that episode. I mean, even in preparation for watching this movie, I listened to our last review on Ant-Man just to like kind of revisit some of those points. So yeah, I'm pretty shameful when it comes to that, but it was such oh yeah, who wouldn't do that? I mean, he's, he went from, this nobody jail person to again saving the universe, or at least half the universe. That's pretty damn cool.
That book, by the way, is actually available to purchase.
I
Marvel
know.
actually
I
made
think
that book,
I might get it. Not gonna lie.
Speaking of a highlight, Cassie Lang, played by Catherine Newton. That's a future main MCU character, so it's good that they nailed it because she did a really good job. I was rooting
Right.
for the entire time. I like how she's got a little bit of her dad in her. Actually, she is her dad. She's a lot like her dad, actually. And
Yes.
I
I think
root for her.
yeah, I think she embodied Scott pretty good. I mean, from the mannerisms to the kind of the way they say things and her delivery, I was really impressed with that. I felt bad for the girl that didn't get picked for Endgame for the longest time. But I understand why they went with a bigger name and probably who has more acting chops, if you will.
Yeah.
But I thought they did a really good job. It was a little jarring at first, but also, no, it was just a little jarring at first, trying to get used to this new Cassie.
I liked it. I think it worked out well, but overall, yeah. I mean, and the other people we've got Katie O'Brien played Genetora, which you could tell is kind of like the new leader of this section of the quantum realm. And I hope they develop her into something more because she really captured, I think, every scene she was in, I was like, ooh, this is cool. So hopefully they
Right.
kind of use her some more. Kind of like they do with Thor and his like side characters jumping in on a lot of his adventures. I
Right.
hope this happens with Ant-Man now too.
Absolutely. Like she was interesting. I mean, it just wasn't enough there. I think that's one of the misses in the movie for me was like, who are these people? Yet we get that they're displaced because of Kang's conquering and he's probably, slain their family and friends and pushed them to the living buildings on the outskirts of the quantum realm. But it just wasn't enough there for me to really just like care about them. So yes, of course, I don't want anybody to get slaughtered and all those things, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, no, this is the worst. Like it was a little disappointing, but I just didn't know enough about them to really care about their stakes.
This could have been a Disney Plus series. I think it would have made more sense because then it's a lot more about this world. And then you could play out this relationship that Kang's trying to develop with Paul Rudd and Scott Lang. And then you could have, if you do that, then you have time for Scott Lang to start agreeing with him a little bit more. And, you could do so much more with this story, with this world you're building. And again, I really wish it was another planet because the quantum realm's stupid. But here we are. But if it was a series, then you get to learn about all these new cool characters. And when they're fighting at the end for the world and you're just seeing them getting annihilated sometimes, you care. Before that, you don't care at all.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny because I didn't run into the whole separate universes thing and all that is just weird to me in general. So it's really hard for me to wrap my head around what's that supposed to look like and how's it supposed to feel. And so I thought they did a good job of painting this different world. Now the problem is when you've seen a movie like an Avatar and you've seen a completely imaginative different universe, and whether you're making conscious comparisons or not, that sticks out to you. And so was it as impressive as something like an Avatar? No, because that world feels completely lived in. It feels so methodical and so thought out, where this one seems like they just did a hodgepodge of interesting things, like we're gonna have jellyfish aliens and sun aliens and people
Yeah.
are gonna ride manta rays.
None of that makes sense though. That why would they be so diverse in their ecosystem there? That makes no sense. Like all of the entire quantum realm fits on top of this stupid ass pen.
Mhm.
And it's like I have no stakes. I don't care if the people on the top of this pen die. I'm being honest with you. There's a
Yeah,
planet somewhere I could get it, but you know what I'm saying? It's like Kang's in
right.
there. Okay, who cares? You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's the thing. It's the
no,
stakes.
definitely. I liked this this kind of, I guess, analysis that I heard from somebody, and I do kind of agree. Majority of Scott's motivations, well, let's start here. It's the decision between apathy and empathy. So, do I care about everybody else, or do I empathetically try to side with them, right? And majority of Scott's motivations through the movies has been to get to his daughter, to keep his daughter
Yeah,
safe, to spend more time with her. And in this movie, he finally decides it's not just Cassie I need to save, it's everybody. He's like,
yeah.
in fact, he
And Cassie
sacrifices
knew that
him.
right off the bat, which is cool. Yeah, just say,
Yeah,
yeah,
and and it's something she embodies in this. She's like, Dad, just because you saved the universe, all these people that got displaced from the blip, they still need homes, they still need places to live, and that's why she gets arrested in the beginning. And at the end, Scott is like, you don't need to be doing all this stuff, and she's like, why? Are you gonna always rest on the fact that you saved the universe once? What do you do for the rest of your life? Are you just gonna sign books? And at the end, I like that he makes the decision to say, hey, as much as I love my daughter and I want to be with her, like I'm willing to put my own life in the line and be trapped here to save the rest of the universe, or save at least the rest of the people on Earth. And I dug that. I thought that was a really cool kind of character growth for Scott in this movie.
okay.
It was like, wow. And even him saying, like, I'm willing to, I don't need to win. I just need to make sure you don't, or like we both lose.
Which was a great line, and that's how it has to be with Kang. You have to think that way because this Kang, especially Unleashed, that I can't wait for that. I can't wait for the Kangs to fight it out, right? I can't wait for
Yeah.
this Kang to be the one that conquers, and it's just to think the reason they like why did they exile him? Let's get into that a little bit. Like, oh, he's so dangerous, we can't trust this particular Kang. Oh, that's gonna be good. Can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only issue I have with everything in terms of King is that his sole motivation is to get out. I mean, I guess conquer everything. So who knows what that actually means? I'm sure he could go out and try to destroy everybody on Earth too. But the problem for me, I think that I was running into mentally was the other variants of these Kangs. Their biggest threat is themselves. So there's no
Yeah.
direct competition with the Avengers or the rest of the heroes. The biggest competition is between all the Kangs. The Avengers just get in the way.
So what I think is going on here is the Council of Ricks from Rick and Morty, right? So
Right.
we have the Council of Ricks that don't trust the Rickest Rick, which is our King the Conqueror.
Right.
I have a feeling that the intention of the Council of Kings is like because they were saying like, oh, they're starting to touch the multiverse. We need to take care of it. That's
Mhm.
about the MCU when they said that.
Right.
So I think now it's like, hey, welcome to this level of technology. Now you're under our rule or whatever, and it gets a little bit slavish. I think King the Conqueror, in my opinion, and because he's telling Scott Lang like, if I don't get loose, something worse is coming.
Right.
I think he thinks that he can rule over everybody and bring peace. Just like
Uh,
Thanos thinks, oh, I could save our resources by getting rid of half the people. Like, there's got to
right.
be a good reason for him to do what he's doing, although the thing he's doing is terrible. So I think he thinks that he is the most just ruler over his other selves. And
Right. That's like a total Doctor Doom mentality.
it
But
really is. Yeah, it
yeah.
is.
By the
So,
way, my favorite villain. That like Doctor Doom is
absolutely.
hands down my favorite. But yeah, no, that totally makes sense, and I agree with you. He probably does think that. Kang is so interesting. I think he was fantastic again all the way through the movie. I didn't like how the big fight. Maybe we should start the big fight.
Yeah.
But what do you think about it? Now they're going in, they're gonna invade
Yeah.
King's capital.
I
What do you
don't
think about
like
that whole
that
thing?
it comes down to Ant-Man's now just bigger. Um, which, it's like, again, not to keep hammering the same freaking nail, but it's a quantum
Mhm.
realm. Size doesn't matter. But okay, sure. You're bigger. I'm sure that's cool. Um,
Yeah,
what
not
the
bigger.
fight,
The biggest he's ever been.
the biggest he's ever been. Yeah, it would be kind of cool if they actually like dropped the name Giant Man somewhere. It would have been neat.
Yeah,
But yeah, the biggest he's ever been, but he's also smaller than he's ever been before too.
that's true.
That's the part that's bugging me as a nerd sitting there in the chair.
bugging you. I like that. But no, what was interesting about that, which I kept thinking, I'm like, how does the shrinking tech work in the quantum realm? I'm like,
I
those
know.
particles can even get smaller.
That's what Jonathan was saying. Is like, aren't they on the bottom? Where else is he going?
Where else do you? Yeah, exactly. Do you just that part? I just didn't really. Maybe it's infinite. Maybe they can infinitely condense the space between the
So is
molecules.
there quantum
but-
realm underneath the quantum realm?
Right. Yeah. Okay. And then that again gets me into the point with Kang at the end. It's like, one, I definitely don't think that they should have been able to beat him in a way. Like, I just
Yeah.
thought that I wasn't happy about that. Let's just get that out of the way. But they just should have lost. He should have got
They should have
his
lost.
ass handed to him.
Or at the very least, be stuck in the quantum realm. Why
Yes.
did all of a sudden they were able to open that gate behind him? And it was like,
Yes.
nothing matters. Gotcha. Okay, guys, we're walking away
Right.
with everybody's fine at the end of this. Let's go get a damn birthday cake.
But like it left the door. I know like Kang's probably still out there, and if not, there's variants or whatever. But the fact that he got sucked in, and the other, I don't want to jump ahead to post credit scenes, but they're like they killed him. I didn't really appreciate that. I wanted him to find some way to get stuck or escape. And there's a hint of him escaping, like the Kang
Yeah.
that we've followed through this whole movie that they've hyped up for months. Like, I wanted him to still. There needs to be something that's around. Maybe that's what the end was alluding to, but I just didn't
Yeah.
care for that choice.
What if he's stuck in a place outside of time and space still because he went inside that thing? And what if
Right.
that's where he found the TVA?
Now, I like that, and if they can bring that home in Loki season 2, I'm all on board with that. That would
Loki
be great.
is so freaking cool. I love the Loki series, and now I was already hyped for it. Now I'm way more hyped for it. Somebody
Yes.
online brought up a good idea. Like, what if they make the finale for Loki go to theaters because they have an opening now in the slots because they moved the Marvels over. So what if like the
Oh.
final episode of Loki goes to theaters? Yes, 100,000% yes. That's an
Yeah.
even better way of doing this. You can have it released on Disney Plus, sure, but also have it in theaters. I will go see that for sure.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely watch that. It's just interesting, I mean, in no world should an Ant-Man and his sidekick friends, I mean, they're all heroes in their own right, I guess, but there's no way they should be Kang. And I
No,
think
you literally took the weakest. I mean, outside of Hawkeye, but I mean, like the idea is that you took the not Thor. He even mentions, "Are you the one with the hammer?" And like, no, he's the one. He's probably the one you don't remember the most.
Right.
So that's that. But I do like when they are going fist to fist. You can tell majority of Kang's suit is screwed up. Where that's where his power is at, is his suit. So like, okay,
Yes.
now you're just fighting Jonathan Majors. Which, by the way, Paul Rudd, you're not winning that fight either.
no way.
Watch him
Yeah.
in Creed 3, folks.
Jesus, dude. Yeah, he looks like he's going to destroy. What is his name? Michael B. Jordan. He's got no chance, man. But
it's gonna be good.
yeah, I didn't like it. One thing I did actually like, and it's still racking my brain. I don't fully understand. Yes, saying it kind of makes sense, but I wasn't fully on board with it yet. I like the concept. Is those ants that got sucked into a time vortex or time void, and they had 1,000 years in one day. I love that concept because it's something that Dragon Ball Z used to do. Where Goku would go into the time capsule and then they would put on 500 times gravity and they would train for, what seemed like years in there and it would come out to like a week. And that's how Goku would power up. And I liked that concept, but I guess I don't know how you bring the ants into the story without something like that. But I did appreciate that the ants had a big part to play in this movie. Like, I was stoked about that.
My whole thing again. Okay, I'm pushing the idea of like I think this would be better if it was on another planet. You could do a portal thing to another planet, find another planet. Kang's stuck on it for some reason. How cool would it be instead of ants getting sucked into it too? You went to another planet, and these ants were from like when NASA launched up ants in the '60s to test out how ants worked, and then the ship just went away. And then
Right.
time dilation actually does work in space. It doesn't work in the quantum realm as far as we can know, because nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows. But it does
Mm-hmm.
work when you go to space. We see it all the time with their own astronauts. So that would have been a cool way to be like, yeah, it's you see like this old 1960s NASA thing just like floating by and like, hey, there's ants on board or whatever. Now, I think
Yeah,
that would have been
yeah.
cute or something like that. Like it got stuck
That'd
in
be
something.
cool. Absolutely. The other thing I was thinking was, because Hank kept playing with his earpiece the whole time,
Yeah,
and I kind of forgot about the ants, that he had this whole spiel about them, how they have like a technocratic system and all that. I thought that was cool, but I also was hoping that maybe there was an ant-like creature or like a genesis of an ant that was in the quantum realm that he was also able to communicate with.
that
So I
would
was
have been
like,
pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah, like where it makes, yes, the ants have to be a part of it, but it's also like he is able to control something in there as well because of his technology. I thought that would have been a cool
Yeah,
choice.
it would have been good too if like the ants drink the goo, so that like everybody could talk to them, not just him.
Oh, that would have been good too.
Yeah,
Did you like that part
I
where
did like that. That was pretty fun. That was pretty fun. Yeah, I did like that. I keep
yeah.
thinking of negatives. I'm going to try to scale back on those. I got one more that drove me nuts.
No, no,
But
no. Here, hey, drop it. Oh, wait, before you drop it, I want to just say, man, Dave Dismalchin, again, I am such a Dave Dismalchin stan.
yeah,
Like, I ride for anything Dave Dismalchin is in, and him. I was like, who is that gooey eye thing? Like, I don't have holes. Only, like, not only, but Dave Dismalchin is one of the few people who can deliver a line like that, and it's, like, not just weird, but it's kind of endearing. And I was like, yes, like, that's cute.
it's
I'm
crazy that
about
he
it.
plays that, and he's also his friend on the outside. Like he plays two people in Ant Man.
Okay, say your grievous because I want to talk about the whole Louise and the crime crew
Yeah,
that was not in this because
yeah,
I
that's
felt like that. Talk about holes. That felt like it left a giant hole in this movie for me.
MODOK sucked. Why do you guys have to bring MODOK into this at all? Like,
Really? Oh
if he
man.
stayed in the suit, maybe he was a full-on invention by Kang. I'd be cool with that. Or if he
Yeah.
was a weird alien or creature or whatever from there. The fact that he's got this goofy ass human head, I think every comic book reader, I know at least myself, I was like, oh man, Marvel keep bringing in the hits from the, but you guys could skip Kang. Like, or not Kang, you guys could skip MODOK. I always thought
Right.
that, right?
Yeah,
The
like
Patton
that's
Oswalt
excused.
animation was cool. I loved that. That was a lot of fun.
Right.
Like, you guys could skip him. I'm okay with it. And then they brought him in, and it was like, oh yeah, that's as stupid as I would imagine it would look. Maybe worse. Nothing
Yeah.
makes CGI look cheap or bad than a gigantic blown up face. It was,
No, totally.
oh, it was
Yeah,
rough.
but it's funny. Like I agree with you. There are some parts though that I actually. So this is the thing. All right, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
When you first see him, like they did a good job of setting up that he's kind of a menacing, terrifying figure. Like I thought he looked pretty badass actually in the suit.
In the full
I'm
suit, it looked cool, yeah.
yeah, in the full suit. So I'm like, I'm on board. I'm a comic fan. I've known MODOK for decades now, and I already knew he looked silly, but yeah, it was every time they pulled off the mask where I kind of lost it a little bit. Where I'm like, it just doesn't work. And sometimes it was okay where I started to believe it, and then at the end when they go, hey, I'm trying not to be a dick or I'm an Avenger, it just got too silly again for me. I don't know. I guess there has to be some level of like realism that I need to buy into for me to appreciate the joke. And this was my issue with Thor Love and Thunder. I don't like my Thor to be doing the karate chop splits to stop bikes. I don't need him to destroy a whole temple and not be aware that he's like ruining people's lives in order you know, to make the joke work for me. And I think that's where I kind of ran into a little bit of issue with MODOK at the end. But there was times where I was like, you know what? He looks pretty badass and he looks menacing and there's no way they could stop him. And then they would take off the mask. I'm like, oh man.
It was so cringy. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I like the little butt though. Little butt was funny.
That was
I was
that wasn't earned to laugh. There were we talk about this on Geek Freaks if you guys listen to that one as well. We talk about how like there were so many times where they set a joke up or they said the joke and that theater was dead silent. Like,
oh really?
No,
My theater was cracking up. So
Oh wow.
yeah, I was like in a different mind. But I mean, I'll be honest,
yeah.
like I'm kind of one of those people that will start the clap or start the laugh before everybody. So like I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm getting hyped for it. So I was laughing, I was clapping, and it just seemed like, it's one of those things where it's infectious. So I didn't say that again. I'm not saying best movie ever, best Marvel, like
But
by
you had
no
fun.
means is it, yeah, but I had fun. Exactly.
That's
I
good.
had a
That's good.
good time and I really enjoyed it. just the I'm an Avenger now as MODOK was dying just didn't work for me. I
Yeah.
wasn't like, yeah.
The
But I mean, I
one
guess it
time I noticed
shows.
the lack of laughs was when that goo guy was like, "Oh, I got holes now," and made a big deal out of it, stuff like that. And it was like, holy shit, you could hear a pin drop in this room, and they're
Oh,
playing
really?
that thing for laughs, and it
Oh
was like,
man.
that's too
we
bad.
had, we had two different experiences, and I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. You got, I think this is really the thing. You just got to go to movies with me because I'll make them awesome.
Yeah.
But no, that like had some people laughing in my theater, and
Okay.
people were
Okay.
like, "Yeah," and like clapping a little bit, and that's it. You just kind of want those moments where you get to root for somebody who you
Totally.
shouldn't be, and that's how I'm such a sucker for the underdog character, and he was one of those. And again, it's Dave Dismalchin just being like this, like ignorant, just he doesn't understand
I like how
the
he runs
world, but
too.
endearing and
He
sweet.
runs funny when he's like leading the charge and he's running in front of them. And he's like this wonky look at this, like, oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
good animation. That was good move, guys.
Yeah, that was great. I don't know. I liked I wanted to know more about the character that was just like a cylinder head that could shoot
Oh,
a
he was
laser.
dope looking. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the dark side like eye laser blast where
Yeah.
it went through different characters in zigzag. I thought that was pretty tight. I wanted to know way more about that character,
Yeah.
and we didn't get a lot.
And we won't,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah.
No, I liked the training montage, so to speak, of Scott trying to teach Cassie how to actually throw the punch as the Ant-Man character.
That was cute. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was cool because it's something I mean we talked about on the Ant-Man review. It's like how does the shrinking and momentum thing actually work?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it shows if you don't have skill, you can't just jump, shrink, and punch. It doesn't work like that. There has to be a timing to it. And I
Yeah.
like that. I like it feels like almost a video game-esque type of thing.
Yeah. She's just
But
not hitting the button at the right time. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I dug that it shows like Scott's actually a really good fighter when it comes to Ant-Man because he understands how it works.
Yeah, you're right. There were a lot of positives, and I think as we're starting to close it, I want to make sure we start touching on more positives because I hate to leave this on such a bad taste. But there
Yeah.
were a lot of really positive things. This thing built a really cool world. I'm not necessarily a big fan of it, but they put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
That scene at the bar with Bill Murray, I think, was really well done.
Dude, Bill Murray, oh man, I love that so much.
Yeah, he seems like a believable character because he kind of played himself as like a arrogant jerk who's so
Yeah.
like kind of he's playing himself a little bit, right? So that worked out
Yeah,
super
yeah.
well.
Especially when he's like flirting with Janet in front of Hank. I
And
was
Hank
just
is
like,
not on board.
plus we found out that both of them got to hook up while the other one was away. Like they still loved each other, were waiting
Michael
for each
Douglas,
other.
yeah, I'm not surprised. By the way, he looked good in this movie because I don't know how old he
Yeah.
is. But he got to be in his 80s, and he looks good for his age, man. That guy, I hope he keeps acting.
Absolutely. And he held his own. Like he was still super useful
Yeah,
in the team and he ended up, the OG Ant-Man saved the day. I love that.
he really did. Yeah, for me, I just did that from the pages for Hank Pym, so kind of on a little bit of a Hank Pym high, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, they got to treat him better. And yeah, the fact that it was his army of ants, I was like, okay, cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that was sweet. Loved it. We should just touch on the post-credit scenes.
Good point. Yes. What did you think of the first one?
So, Council Kangs, loved it. I will start off by saying I did love that scene. The only thing was maybe, and this is super nitpicky. I'm not saying this is bad in any way, but the Immortus voice was a little distracting for me.
Mm-hmm.
I loved seeing Ramatut. I was like, oh,
I
hell
was so
yes.
happy with that. I was like, yeah, like
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Dude,
That was
that's
cool.
oh my god! And man, if they find a way, like he should just be the villain in Fantastic Four. I'm like,
Yeah. Oh God, dude.
I'm-
Yes. Oh, that would be
yes,
such
I
a
want
good
that.
move.
yes.
Oh yes.
So just make him the villain everywhere and a different version of Kang. I'm all on board. But the Immortus voice for me, I don't know what I was imagining, but it wasn't that. And again, Jonathan Majors, I can't say one bad thing about him. He probably will be one of the best actors of our generation, but it just was a little bit too much overacting in a way for me.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me in that moment.
I think they need to play it. I think this entire movie had to be scaled down a little bit, like just turn the knob down a little bit on this, on
Yeah.
how fantastical you're going. And with Kang, my only complaint is this scene. I think they're a little too varied. They don't need to be that varied. We saw once they all start
Right.
forming in that a lot of them look alike. And that kind of needs to be what this is. I get like literally with Council of Ricks, there's like different haircuts. One's a hammer, like stuff like that. I get that, but
Right.
just because there's a difference between us who are comic book fans who are totally buying in on this world, and those who are mainstream that are going to get you the big numbers, sales.
Hmm.
You have to make sure this sells to everybody, and so try not to make these guys look super wacky. I think is your
Yeah,
best move going forward.
definitely. Yeah, the who like I loved that it was ripped right from that page of the comic though. Like
Yeah,
that was so sick, and seeing how many variants there are on the page and seeing I think I was just impressed too to see the range that Jonathan Majors has because he can play this many different types of himself. But I agree with you. I think subtle changes to each character would have been even more impressive. Like when
yeah,
somebody can subtly just turn the knob just a little bit in their acting and you can tell they're a different person by just like little changes in their mannerisms or delivery, to me is always a more impressive choice for actors.
exactly. With He Who Remains versus Kang the Conqueror, those two
Right.
differences they don't
Great
look the exact
example.
same, but boy were they totally different characters, and that's all
Hmm.
Jonathan Majors showed. And Kevin says the reason he brought on Jonathan Majors is because he had that range where he could be multiple people without changing costume. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, let's see that then, because Jonathan Majors is carrying this so hard, and I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question for you, okay, so we had Ramatut, we had Immortus. Who do you think that third person was?
I
Because
have
I've
no
heard
clue.
people said Red Centurion or Iron Lad. And I don't know if it's either
Ooh,
one of those, but
Iron
I
Lad would
am
be younger, no?
well, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I agree. Yeah, I mean, based on how he was introducing Young Avengers, yeah, he was definitely like a young kid, but I don't know. Yeah, so I don't just throwing it out there. That's what I've heard.
Mm. I was looking at Ramatut the entire time.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, please bring him back more often. He's so dope.
He is so sick.
That was
Yeah, and
such
then
a
the
that was such a cool Easter egg. Like they never use him again. It was just like, I know the origin. I know who that is. You know.
yes,
Oh, it was so
exactly. Oh,
freaking cool.
okay. And then let's. I think that's a perfect segue into post-credit scene number
Yeah,
two,
yeah,
which was the origin of Victor Timely, which we got from the comics, who was the original King the Conqueror, who went back in time to become Ramatut,
hmm,
and that it leads right into Loki season two. We
yeah,
see how Loki is terrified of him, and Mobius, because his brain was wiped, or a new version, or however they're going to explain it, was like, that guy? Not that guy. He looks
yeah.
harmless. Like, oh man,
I
I'm excited about that.
I think this might be the first post credit in the movies to lead to one of the series, which is after
Yeah.
Kevin's
Good
recent and
point.
somebody else. Oh no, this is yeah, that's Star Wars. But Kevin's recent thing, like yeah, there's probably too many Marvel shows, and a little bit too
Which
important, which is interesting. I
I
wonder
think
if it
that's
has
such a
anything to do with this.
weird. Because he was like, oh, a superhero. I mean, again, this is not a nitpick, but I just find it interesting because he went on and said superhero fatigue, that's not a real thing. And then a couple weeks later has now backtracked and said, yeah, maybe it was too much. I
Yeah,
don't know. How do you feel about him, Kevin Feige, kind of, I don't know, I guess flipping his statements?
I think it just makes sense. We've talked. Squeaks has been going through it quite a bit. We've talked about it a little bit about this superhero fatigue that's going on right now, and the way you change that up is stay in the MCU but show different stories in the MCU. Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier is fantastic movie. It's a spy thriller. It doesn't have to be. It's no superheroes at all, really, right?
Hmm.
It's got superheroes in it, but it's no, it's just the spy thriller part. Do that. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think with the series, it was the same way. It was like, yeah, that's cool. I like that. But I think the fact that they have the Echo series coming up is like, well, you don't need Echo. Just go right to Daredevil.
Well, that's one of the series that might not be on the docket this year, right? Because they said
They
for
pushed
sure
back
we're
a
getting.
ton of them.
Yeah, and like so Loki season 2 and Secret Invasion are now the only things confirmed for this year.
Yeah,
And again,
that's
like
a
I
good
don't know
move, in my opinion.
anybody, I think it's a good move too. And it's no slight on Echo, but I don't really know who was asking for it. Like I'm a
Right.
comic
Yeah.
book fan and I barely know Echo. I know she's gotten bigger stories now like currently now, but there's not a lot of people who know who Echo is, and sure they can
Yeah.
build her up like Guardians of the Galaxy, but James Gunn was helming that. Who's helming Echo? I don't know. So I think it is a good choice.
Not to keep bringing up Geek Freaks, but on recent Geek Freaks, we talked about how they're making toys. The next Toy Story, they're making another Frozen, and they're making another Zootopia.
I don't
And
know anybody who's asking for that.
the thing is what this means is, and Bob Iger talked about it, is because everybody's planning for the recession, they're doubling down on what works.
Right.
So they're not
That
pushing
did, yeah,
they're not
that makes
pushing
sense.
envelopes anymore. Echo is an envelope push,
Right.
and I think what this means, and I want to get your opinion on it. Alexa, oh my God, Alexa, stop. Oh, Echo. That's what it is. I got multiple of them. One of them's called Echo.
Oh.
Echo, stop. What about sexually? Echo. Stop. Oh my god. She's going into like a whole wiki page about something.
Yeah,
About
she
sex.
is. She's giving you the definition of echo.
All right, so I feel because they're trying to double down on things, we're going to get a lot less of those trying something new franchises and sticking back to what works. And I could almost guarantee you we're getting Iron Man back sooner than we thought because of this.
Oh, baby. Now
Yeah.
that is, I'm on board with that. I don't think it
It's been long enough
diminishes-
for me. I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Like, man, I want Chris Evans back. I want Robert Downey Jr. back. I also want to see them explore with variants for sure. But
Yeah, Secret Invasion will definitely do that. We're going to get a bunch of variants for all those characters.
I'm like so on board with that. And I don't care. Like, people are like, oh, it'll diminish his death. For me, I don't give a shit. Like,
Not
I wanna
anymore.
see-
As long as they didn't like immediately turn around, they did a whole phase. We're good now. Bring it back.
Yeah, we're a phase through. We're gonna. It's by the time they come back, it'll probably be phase 6. Who cares? Like, bring them back. They could be variants. I'm
Have
down.
Robert make them because he's got a production company now that's making the new Sherlock Holmes movies. Sure,
Right.
make the new Iron Mans too. We don't care. Put yourself in a suit and I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. And let's face it, like a lot of the real work. I mean, the action scenes for him are CGI. So you really got to come on set for a week, maybe. Put on the green screen suit, or the mocap suit, put on a few chest plates, and I'm a happy boy. Like let's go. I'm down
A lot
with
of his
that.
most impactful scenes, you just see like him in a black area with his face doing this thing the whole
exactly.
time.
He's just saying things. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's making Starky comments,
Yeah.
comments, if you
Which is
will.
what we want.
I'm down with that.
Yeah. So I mean,
Absolutely.
with that being said, I think that's what we're getting with the series as well. I would not be surprised if shows like Echo are straight up canceled.
Right. Yeah,
And
I
it's
agree.
unfortunate, but I think we're gonna get that just because they're gonna be like Secret Invasion. It brings in a lot of main characters, but I think if that wasn't so far developed, they might even slow that one down.
True.
Loki's safe, WandaVision safe, stuff like that. Like, but yeah,
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
a few of them that were chances. Ironheart, I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
about Ironheart. I think
I
something
yeah, I
new is
wonder
not
that
gonna
one-
land well. We know how bad she did in Wakanda Forever. Like how unfortunate the reception of her was. That's what I mean by say by that.
Right, because
Giving her an
you're
entire
totally
series
right.
might not be
I
smart
think the
right now.
actress killed it. I loved her portrayal of Riri, but
Yeah.
I don't think the reception was good. Let's be honest, like the Power Ranger suit didn't do her any favors either.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I think that one is. It seems like it's so far into production, it might be all right. But I don't know anybody who's asking for Echo, and Echo for me has always been a character that stemmed off of Daredevil. So if you do Daredevil right, you can get Echo.
Exactly.
I don't think you
just like
need
with
Echo.
Armor Wars, you can get Ironheart better probably
Right.
in that than you can the entire new series, where
Yeah.
it's probably a college drama, and it's like talk about how the U.S. government's trying to deal with the new suit out there. That'd be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, I'm on board with that. So,
All right. Let's go ahead and let's go into our fun facts real quick. I got a couple, and then
oh, we got fun facts on this one. This
Yeah, we
thing
got a
just
couple.
came out. You're on job, man.
all right, our first one is this is the second trilogy in all of MCU to have the same director through all three films. That the other one was being John Watts, who did the Spider-Mans.
Oh yeah. I mean, maybe not the best Ant-Man movie, but Peyton Reed has done an amazing job with this character. I commend him a lot.
Yeah. This film, Thor: Love and Thunder, and The Marvels were all filmed at the exact same time.
Really?
Yep.
That's crazy.
To think of how far away they are from from releasing near each other. They were all filmed at
Right.
the exact same time.
Wow.
Scriptwriter Jeff Loveness based the dynamics of father and daughter on two previous films. One of them, Father of the Bride. The other one, Hook.
Hell
just
yes.
a beat hook.
Love that. All right. The father-daughter stuff really shined through in this movie for me. So perfect examples to pull from.
The last two I want to use it here. Scott's Ant-Man suit has been altered to include the classic chest pattern from the comics itself. So
Yeah,
it's
that was
more
cool.
comic book accurate than before.
Yeah.
And then
that.
Kang angrily smashes Scott's helmet with a roundhouse kick. This is reflective of a comic book panel where he does the same thing to Spider-Man. So basically, they're bringing back a
that's
classic
sick.
Spider-Man fight with Kang. Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, dude, this movie, again, two things. One thing, missing the like Thief Team. Really miss them. But two, there was a lot of like straight comic book references that I did appreciate in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, they did a lot of nods to the comics that were like, that is pretty damn cool. So on that alone, I gave it like a few bumps up in points.
Let's give you a review for this. What's your review for this movie?
Oh man. All right, let's see. It's so hard because I'm still processing. I don't know if I can say it in like one paragraph. Let me think. You go first because I'm probably just going to steal what you say.
I say another solid addition to the MCU lineup. It is not the star of the show, but it does further the story as a whole. Something that hasn't been done since Endgame, really.
That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun, enclosed adventure. A lot of laughs, wildness, disjointed at a few times, but ultimately gets the character on some track of growth and also expands new characters that we can see in future MCU properties. As a standalone film, I don't know if it's going to be a top tier movie, but further down the line in Phase 5, this could arguably be one of the most important movies to set up the future of the MCU.
That's a very good point. Yeah, because it is definitely the most important we've had in a while.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's it for me. Anything else for you?
Nope. I'm probably gonna watch it again. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I probably will too. What's coming up for Joystick Show? Let's get some cross promotions going.
We got our week to week conversations. Last of Us. I don't know. We're going to be talking more Ant-Man on there. We're going to be getting Drake and Scott's opinions on the movie, which I'm very curious about because, again, I feel like I'm pretty high on the movie, but I can already imagine Drake and Scott may not be so kind.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what Drake says about it. He's gonna
bash it. He's going to give it the boot to this ant of a movie.
Over at the Geek Freaks Network, we have the new season of both Outlast Podcast and Level Up starting up this week, guys. So take a look at those. Brand new seasons coming out.
Right on. Can't wait.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye.
Aloha, everybody.